Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the fourth episode of Women in Data Science, a series dedicated to amplifying the voices of women in this field as we highlight DemandScience's own. It's interesting to think about the field of data science today could not be where it is now if it weren't for the contributions of women. In the last 200 years, like the pioneering computer scientists Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper, we also remember Katherine Johnson, the mathematician who contributed to the success of the first manned flights into space. And that brought science into the next frontier. Also, we remember computer scientist and systems engineer Margaret Hamilton, and she contributed to the success of the Apollo missions back in the 1970s. And apart from coining the term software engineering, she also made pioneering contributions to the field of computer science and programming. There are now more women in the field of data science than ever, but as encouraging as that may sound, there's still a lot of work to be done to include more women in the field and achieve parity. And with that said, we're excited to feature one of our data scientists in DemandScience, who's currently our software engineering manager in the product research and development department. Angela, thank you for joining us and giving us the opportunity to amplify the voices of women at DemandScience.
Hiya, thanks for having me today, and a hi to anybody watching. My name is Angela and I'm a software engineering manager here at DemandScience. Been here for nearly 2 years. Before this role I was an infrastructure software developer working in the geoscience space, and then sort of long before that, when I first came to London, I worked in finance.
So Angela, we had a little talk before this episode on your role and the technical prowess it requires. Maybe you could explain to our audience what it means to be a data engineer for data science?
So to do data/software engineering at DemandScience is to solve problems daily. The problems can range from how do I get this pipeline to work to how do I get this to work better. For example, the team and I are closely tied to the data that goes to Clarity, our B2B front-end platform. So we solve problems like, how do I give this data point more meaning? How do I get it to the front end faster? How do I reduce noise? Some days the problems are fully involved and you need all hands on deck to fix it. And then other days the problems can be fixed just by rubber ducking with someone, which is excellent.
Yeah, and I think solving problems on a daily basis would be a challenging task. But, the hosts in this series always ask this question, and I think as a data scientist we'll have fresh perspective on the difficulties and, the challenges that are unique to women in this field. What do you think are these challenges, that are unique to women in data science?
So women are underrepresented in STEM, both in education and in industry, and that is a categorical fact. I think women make up a quarter of the STEM workplace, and very, very similar for STEM graduates as well. So I think then in terms of the challenges that we face, it begins with the underrepresentation, right? It's the being the only woman in a meeting sometimes, and it's the sort of unspoken pressure of needing to be excellent by virtue of somehow being representative of all women because you're the only one there. So I think it's in part a mix of imposter syndrome for some women, and then definitely also a mix of the Madame Curie complex.
Oh yeah, if you tell me system engineer, the first thing that pops into my mind is a man. But thank you, Angela. It's really great to hear and empathize with the experiences and the thoughts of women in their field. And myself was able to experience the same thing. In that regard, do you think that being a woman gives you a unique perspective and ways of fulfilling your role as a data engineer for DemandScience?
So I think I think we all bring a unique perspective to our roles, right? I do, you do, everybody watching at home does, because we are all products of our singular, unique experiences. You won't find anybody who lives life the same way that you do. So in terms of how being a woman affects my role at DemandScience, I think it's more about giving and receiving opportunities for everybody to succeed, because that's the bottom line, right? Like, a more diverse group of minds delivers better results. So for example, in the early days of voice automation, it was found that the voice commands and recognition were resoundingly biased towards male voices because of the folks who were working on it. They probably didn't have a voice that sounded like mine to test with. So I think that's it, right? It's being there, and it's being present, and it's maybe helping to address the subconscious biases that people might have, and they don't even know it. For example, if I asked someone to picture in their minds what a data engineer looks like, or what a software engineer looks like, what gender would they be? What would their heritage be? What would they look like? What do they sound like? Would they look anything like me? So I think that's it, right? So if you work with a woman of colour in software engineering, then maybe that might help to expand your default image, which would be amazing.
Yeah, I just mentioned that earlier, but I think I agree. If, say, for example, I'd see a data engineer, a software engineer being a woman, it would have a different effect on me, on my confidence that, finally, we're probably going to have like a diverse set of minds that's going to brainstorm on whatever problem that we need to solve, right? But thank you so much, Angela. We're very fortunate to have a resource person in our series who deals directly with the scientific aspects of her products. And also, for further highlighting or validating the role of women in the field of data science, a lot of work is needed to achieve parity for women in the field of data science, right? In fact, according to a study of the Alan Turing Institute of the UK, women make up only 20% of the data science practice worldwide. What do you think should be done in order to close the gender gap further and increase inclusivity in our industry?
So to sort of take a step towards closing that gap, I think this conversation is great. I think bringing this issue to the forefront of people's minds is excellent. But I also think that this conversation should be happening earlier on. So I think there's research done that shows as early as 7 to 8 years old, there's already in children an implicit association between gender and maths. Like that stereotype of maths is for boys. That's not true. Maths is for people who do maths. Maths is for people who don't do maths. You know, maths is for everybody. It doesn't discriminate. So I think we need to promote earlier on that engineering skills and competencies are learned. They're not innate. Nobody is born super good at algebra. You know what I mean? I wasn't. I don't know if you were. And then I think all the way sort of at our end, at industry, where we know the gap is already too big, we can do things like removing gender information from CVs and making sure that everybody, regardless of gender, is involved in the efforts to promote inclusivity and diversity, because it's not just a me issue, it's an everybody issue, so everybody should be involved. But I think for sure this conversation, this interview and bringing this topic up is a really good way to start.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not good with algebra or LTL, so if demand science in 2022, Angela, what drew you to the company? And now that you're here, what do you love most about it?
So I initially applied for this role at DemandScience because it felt like a fast-moving company where you wouldn't hear the phrase, "That's how we've always done it." And one of the things I distinctly remember is how fast the recruiter was. It was like a really quick turnaround on the interview process, which I really appreciate. And it sort of gave me real confidence that the folks working here were on the ball, really. And indeed, that is one of the things I love the most about working here, is that I get to work with really fabulous and talented people who are genuinely good at their jobs. So every day I get to come and I get to learn a little bit more about what I do from the people I work with, which is amazing, right? So I get to solve problems with people who are just really good at what they do. So we collectively produce really good results together, and we drive really great products, and it's really satisfying.
I totally agree. I mean, based on experience, I've worked with different groups. Most of them I didn't work with before, and they're very welcoming to any ideas that you have, whether or not it's raw or it's great or it's something that they've heard before or it's something that they haven't heard before. It doesn't matter. They welcome all of these ideas, which is really great. And before we end this interview, we discussed earlier on the things to be done for more women to become part of data science. And I'd like to ask if you have any last advice for women in this field, or anyone, or any woman with a desire to enter data science.
Do I have any advice? Do it. Do it. Lean in, engage, and I think more importantly, just back yourself all the way to the end. Believe in yourself and believe in your career, because if you don't, who else will? And it could be the start of a really amazing and fulfilling career.
Thank you so much, Angela, for your time and all those inspiring lessons that you shared. It's a pleasure to have you for this interview, and I've learned so much myself, and I hope our audience has too. Please stay tuned for our next episode.